Good evening, good morning to wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to another coffee hour. All right, so today I'm still fiddling around with StreamYard, so excuse me if there's any technical difficulties. I did notice that yesterday's stream, when we did it on StreamYard, it came in really like grainy, like on the video. So it was I think it was because of not only StreamYard, but I also had a crappy internet connection at the time. So hopefully this one will come in 1080p, high def, so you guys can get a little bit better, video quality. All right. I'm also streaming to X. So I'll be streaming to not only X, but I'll also be streaming on YouTube as well. YouTube is more of my, platform of choice. But I have an X account and I figure, hey, why not just stream there as well? So we got a lot to cover, guys. We got a ton to cover. A lot of metal news. All right, there's going to be a lot of metal news. This will probably be metals heavy. There's some big developments that came out, so we're definitely going to be covering that. If you don't already know, all right, we're going to be talking about a $1.3 billion investment into the metal space. We're going to be talking a little bit about silver, a little bit about gold. We got NVIDIA in the news, and we have earnings week. All right, so earnings week is going to be a big deal. And I didn't have time to get this other big important piece of news. So I'm going to just Google search it right now and get it up here. But we have the FOMC meeting. Okay, we have the FOMC meeting this week. Actually, they're meeting already right now. I guess in the past, I guess you guys are still on the 26th, but today is the 27th here in Thailand. So they will be meeting on the 27th, and they'll have their conference or the Jerome Powell speech on the 28th. So very important stuff, right? I think this is going to be a pretty interesting week. But anyways, to stop me from yapping, let's just get right into it. All right. So as always, I do appreciate you guys coming in and chopping it up with me. And here we go. So I see in the chat we have Victor saying, hey, welcome back, man. Always appreciate having you here. JVMZ. Hey, I'm on time. Yep. I'm going to try to do these streams every day consistently for this time. It just adds a little bit of structure, to the channel and definitely to the lives. I still haven't decided if, how I want to kind of structure the live streams, because on Sunday I had a blast, having people actually come on as a guest, onto the show. So it was really cool. Especially speaking with some of you guys that, I've never, aside from the chat and the comments, actually talking to you was actually really cool. So, I would definitely like to keep that up. Maybe what I'll do is, towards the end of the stream, what I'll do is, probably open up the guest line, I suppose, and people can hop on and we can, chat it up, cut it up. All right. So I see Eric Ward or Eric Mark Ward. Nice. Glad you're doing this. Hey, appreciate it. All right. I really do get a lot of joy, I suppose, from doing these live streams. And so far, I've been pretty consistent. So I'm going to try to keep this up. All right. I just like going over the news. This fits in perfectly with my schedule anyways, because I usually take this time to just, go over the news, have my morning coffee, and kind of go through stuff. The videos, I haven't really been posting much of anything, to be honest. I've kind of moved on from the whole high yield space. I'm still invested in high yield. Don't get me wrong. I'm still invested in high yield ETFs. And I still will invest in high yield ETFs. But I think there's some channels out there that take this way more serious, and they have a way better structure than myself, where they can cover these ETFs as they drop. They're interviewing fund managers, and they do great jobs. So, I don't think that's a game that I personally want to play. It's not something I'm interested in. So I'm moving on to more of the macro, stock market news. That's the stuff I really like. Anyways, I've been blabbing on. Let's get into the news, guys. All right. You guys keep getting me off track here. All right. Let me take a quick sip and then we'll get into it. Got a bigger cup today. Okay. So S&P 500, we are actually up 50 basis points. So that is really awesome. Really good to see that we are, at least not red, right? Because there's a lot of volatility coming up, right? This is earnings week. Okay, we have a lot of stuff coming up. You guys can see we have, Microsoft, Meta, Tesla, just in one day on Wednesday, right? And guess what Wednesday is, right? If I'm not mistaken, that's going to be the 28th. That's also in line with the Federal Reserve speaking. Gonna be a crazy day. Okay, we have Apple the next day. All right, we have ASML, which is a big company. They do the lithography for the semiconductor space. So I believe, you know, a lot of people are going to be listening to what they have to say, especially when it comes to orders, right? Especially when it comes to orders. Let's see who else we have in here. There's no one really. I guess you can include the defense contractors. You have RTX, Raytheon, you have Northrop Grumman. These are pretty big. You have Boeing, United Health Group, not a defense contractor, but you know, UNH. You know, their stock has just actually plummeted pretty badly. So we do have, you know, again, some of the Mag 7. We have some semiconductor companies like Lam Research is coming up. So it's going to be a crazy week, and this will give us at least a preview into, again, more information on not only data center build outs, you know, data center capex, the semiconductor space, and just, you know, the AI thesis in general, right? This will give us at least a good preview into what, you know, how some of these major hyperscalers are dealing with it, you know, how some of the semiconductors are dealing with it. So going to be very interesting. Let's see. Living on high yield, metal's pulling back. Maybe finally time to buy, or for crypto to play catch up. You know, I saw an interesting thing from Tom Lee. We covered it in yesterday's stream. Basically, he was saying that, you know, it's sucking the oxygen out of, you know, the what do you call it? It's sucking the oxygen out of the environment, I guess, out of the market, right? And basically, what I surmised from that is that he's talking about taking the liquidity, right? That's really what it is. He's taking all the liquidity, and or gold and metal is. But that is a good sign, right? That's a good sign that, at least in my mind, that the market is still like liquid, like there's still money in the market. And I'm trying to find that message so I can pull it up for you guys. I have it here. Let's see. Open link. All right, boom, there we go. So that came from Tom Lee. And again, like, I think it's a good message. I think that, you know, we can kind of, again, surmise that eventually, you know, when liquidity maybe leaves the metals and rotates, which who knows when that'll be, or if that'll even happen. Maybe they'll rotate to equities and back into crypto. But again, like right now, everything is about commodities. Everything is about metals. Like, you cannot turn on the news that has to do with the stock market and not hear something about metal. Right. And even this stream, you know, we're going to be covering a lot of metal stuff. And I'm not a big commodities trader or investor. I have not been. I actually just only recently started becoming more of a commodities investor. I always thought, and foolishly, that gold was pointless to have in a portfolio. And I'm eating those words, right? I also thought silver was, you know, pretty foolish to have, right? I never thought of these. Like, I still don't think bonds are important for me. The same thing could be said, you know, about the other commodities. You know, I didn't even know how much metal or how important these metals are, right? Not only for AI, but power. Right? If we're going to power these data centers, if we're going to power the rest of the United States, you know, to bring up the power grid, well, that's a hell of a lot of, you know, metals that you're going to need. You're going to need a lot of copper and a lot of aluminum, right? So, you know, you start going down, and then natural gas, right? It's probably also going to be just as important to run the power that's going to fuel these data centers. So there's a lot of just interesting things that are happening out there, and it feels like I'm playing catch up. I think a lot of us are playing catch up, to be honest, because this just came out of nowhere. And again, this is kind of coming. Again, this is just my idea. This is more or less a government driven super cycle, right? Everything's a super cycle now. I get it, guys. You know, commodity super cycle, AI super cycle, crypto super cycle, Ethereum super cycle. But really, when you look at it, when you get down to the meat of it, what is driving a lot of this? It's the government. It's the US government. It's policy driven. It's all policy and monetary driven. So this is why I'm kind of like going off the thesis that you just invest in whatever the hell the United States government is trying to achieve, right? And we're going to cover some of that here in just a moment. So let's move on. All right, cool. So Bitcoin didn't reach back up to the 90. All right, back up to 90. So we're still hovering under 90. Again, we had a peak of about 95 in the last 2 weeks. So again, it's a risk on asset. It's just a lot of people are rotating probably out of Bitcoin, out of equities. back into or going into metals, right? Gold actually had a slight little pullback after hours, okay? And so did silver. Silver definitely had a pullback, but again, year to date, I mean, gold is up, 16, almost 17%. So far year to date, best performing asset, right? I don't even think gold, or I don't even think Bitcoin is even close to that. Yeah, Bitcoin's at 1%. The S&P 500 is barely at 1.3%. So gold, the best performing asset year to date so far. All right. And it's barely the first month. Okay. Going back to earnings again, just keep your eyes open for this. This is going to be a pretty volatile week just because of some of the companies that are reporting earnings. And we also have the Fed, again, making or having their meeting. All right. So they're having their meeting tomorrow, your guys' time. And then on the 28th, on Wednesday, that's when they're going to actually have their conference. So definitely going to be interested to hear what Jerome Powell has to say. Jerome Powell is kind of like the weather gauge in all of this. Excuse me. Jerome Powell's the weather gauge in all of this. He's basically the one that's going to tell us, how is the market doing, right? How's the economy doing? Is labor continuing to show cracks? Is it softening? What's the print going to look like? The Federal Reserve has been ramping up their treasuries, right? Buying their treasuries, which is injecting a ton of money into the economy. Now, there's two trains of thoughts here. One train of thought believes that, this is not quantitative easing or quantitative easing. This is just the Fed, doing, just regular, normal, ordinary, probably unscheduled things, because their last Fed meeting, Jerome Powell said that they were going to be adding or buying $50 billion worth of treasuries, or was it 25? It was one of those two. They're buying a bunch of treasuries, right, in order to get ready for tax season. But then, it looked like that number increased. So now a lot of people, a lot of pundits, people who are watching this stuff every single day are starting to think maybe this is quantitative easing under the hood. They just don't want to say it out loud. Right. So we'll see what comes from this meeting. Again, this is just going to add to the volatility. I actually honestly believe that this is probably why silver had kind of a sell-off today. Right. This is probably why silver had kind of a massive dip, was because of this FOMC meeting that's coming up, right? Wrote it to the top. You had actually Chinese banks, Chinese zombie banks that are starting to become, insolvent, I suppose. And a lot of people are taking their money out of banks and then moving it to metals. So again, a lot of stuff happening not only in the broader world but also here at home. I also think that what's driven this sell-off is definitely has to do with the FOMC. It's just one, it's profit taking, right? At the top, people are just getting their profits out. But two, they also want to kind of prepare for whatever the Fed has to say, right? I don't think the Fed is going to cut rates. I think the odds are very low. We could check the CME watch group tool, but I'm pretty sure that the odds are almost near zero that they're going to be cutting. So let's just take a quick look while we're at it. All right, so this is the CME Fed Watch tool. You guys can check. This is basically predictions for the Fed rate cut. All right, so it's coming up in about a day, 17 hours, and we can see that 96% chance that we pretty much stay flat. Right, we're not getting a cut. All right, not getting a cut. There's your prediction. Again, this is just adding to the volatility for this week. So we'll probably have some wild swings, especially if you're in those risk-on assets. The things like a Palantir, the things like an NVDA, or anything else. Meanwhile, gold and silver, if we have a bad FOMC meeting, a negative perception of what's going on in the economy, silver, gold are probably going to continue ripping to the upside. And we're going to cover that here because we also have the odds of a government shutdown happening, surging to 80%. All right. I briefly covered this on Sunday, and this should absolutely annoy the living hell out of you guys. Cause I mean, look at this. All right. So the odds of a government shutdown rocketed higher on prediction markets after Senate Democrats vowed to block a $1.2 trillion funding package that includes appropriations for the Department of Homeland Security. All right, first and foremost, red, blue, green, I don't care what your politics are. This is a politics-free channel. All right, we just go over the facts, right? What's actually happening. So, anyways, with that being said, we're adding $1.2 trillion onto an already explosive debt, right? Already onto the US credit card. We're just adding more debt. So when we talk about things like the debasement trade, or when we talk about things like the government is just going to keep printing money and this is bullish for gold and other things, other stores of value, this is why the United States just wants to add another $1.2 trillion. All right. President Trump, not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, just added $500 billion in addition to the $1 trillion for defense spending. All right. So boom, right there, another 500 billion. Let's tack on another 1.2 trillion. Why not? The Fed could just print it, right? No big deal here. But odds of a government shutdown by January 31st surged to 79% on Kalshi. Kalshi is a prediction market. It's basically where you can go and make bets, similar to like Robinhood, prediction markets. Up from 11.5 on Friday on Polymarket, the odds jumped 80% from 9%. All right, Polymarket is another, degenerate gambling site, but they call it prediction markets because it sounds more professional. But anyways, this is crazy, right? So if you ever wanted a sign of what is, if you ever wanted to know why people are bullish on gold, this is why. The government has a spending problem. It's always going to have a spending problem. Why is gold going up? Well, has the U.S. government become fiscally responsible? Not yet, right? So this is why gold is going to continue to go up, right? At least that is the running narrative. That's the running thesis for a lot of this, all right? So wanted to cover that because that was very, very important. And that's going to lead us into this. Gold, silver, again, shatter record highs amid crisis of confidence in the US dollar. Okay, so you guys saw the news. If you didn't, Trump is threatening Canada with even more tariffs. And we just placed tariffs on South Korea, right, for their autos. Canada at Davos basically said that they're going to be siding with, China for the New World Order, which I think was a terrible miscalculation just on their part. And the reason is because, the United States is kind of in a beef, a financial rivalry with China. We're trying to wean ourselves off, Chinese metals, the supply chain from China. We're trying to reshore everything, bring all the semiconductor, companies back into the United States. TSMC is one of them. And, while we're at it, we want to weaken China, China's influence, right? That's the whole like Venezuela thing that just occurred. A Chinese delegation was there during the raid. They met a day early, and then the raid happened. So again, this is a bigger play. But the Davos meeting that just concluded, right, where all the elitists, all the globalists were, there's a problem. The United States went in there with a America first, but not alone mentality, and this is starting to shake up a lot of our allies and partners, right? NATO, they're kind of like in shambles right now. They're trying to figure things out. With Trump wanting to acquire Greenland, that's already been taken care of, or they've reached a framework. But you also have just the EU in general. That they started to clap back and say, okay, if you're going to tariff us because we sent some troops to Greenland, well, we're going to tariff you guys. And now, they're still holding this leverage over the United States that leverages all the debt that they hold and the equities, right? If they start offloading that, which is probably not really realistic, but if they were to, it's something that could potentially impact the stock market. Trump loves a green stock market. Let's just say what it is. All right. So, it's just a lot of crazy crap going on in the broader world. All right. So anyways, gold, silver surged to yet another round of all-time highs on Monday as investors raced to safe havens after President Trump threatened Canada with 100% tariffs if Prime Minister Carney struck a trade deal with China. Prime Minister Carney just came out and said, look, we don't have a free trade agreement with China. All right. It's just, one or two things. I haven't had a chance to actually look through that article. But basically, Carney is trying to navigate, this minefield with the Trump administration, because the Trump administration does not want Chinese influence at the border, right at the top. They do not want that influence there. So that's why, the United States is probably threatening Canada with these huge tariffs. And to say, that they're siding with the New World Order, that was that was a pretty bold statement. Fears of a U.S. government shutdown were sparked. We kind of already covered this. So yeah, gold, silver, continuing to climb. Gold is a safe haven asset. It's where people will dump their money when too much geopolitical nonsense is happening. When there's banks closing down, when there's a run on the bank, people are taking their money out, putting it into gold. If gold's too expensive, they're moving it to silver, right? As we just heard about India, where India is stockpiling, like the just regular people like you and I, they're stockpiling silver because gold is too expensive. So it's a safe haven asset. A lot of people, will use these as hedges. Investors will use these as hedges against, certain things. But, for just a common person, like I mentioned before in one of my streams out here in the Southeast Asia and in the Middle East, like gold is everything, right? Gold is everything. Like they don't teach you how to trade stocks or use brokerages out here. At least here in Thailand, it's not really a big deal. But buying gold is a big deal, right? Gold out here is about 24 carats. It's one of the purest golds out here. Same thing in the Middle East. I mean, there's just a ton of gold all over the place. So safe haven asset. This is where people are moving their money because of what's going on in geopolitics between countries, and not only that, but the financial system. Just checking some of the chat. Let's see. We have Super Straight Guy. Hey, welcome back, man. Always a pleasure to have you in here. I finally got into the commodities game. Hey, welcome. All right. I'm a little late myself, so don't feel bad. Eric says, funny how AMC sold all their Highcroft mining and then it runs 80%. I briefly looked at Highcroft mining. I haven't obviously touched it or anything. Or else I wouldn't be doing the stream. I'd probably be somewhere else, right? Like on an island. But no, like I read a little bit about the Highcroft stuff. I don't have an opinion about it, but yeah, I see that it's just been going crazy. Like it's just been going parabolic. I don't even think I'll be getting in, like honestly. But it was, I think it was Eric Sprott or it was Rick Rule that was talking about Highcroft last year. It was like a month before the huge run up, and they mentioned it probably several times on that stream, on that podcast. And if you don't know who Eric Sprott is, he runs a metals, fund, a metals fund. You guys can check him out, Sprott ETFs. But there's also Rick Rule, and he runs a channel, intelligent guy, and I really easy to listen to. I recommend people, if you want to understand the commodities market a little better, probably from a surface level, listen to Rick Rule. The guy is freaking smart. And I only recently discovered him, because one of the members in the Discord had put him out. Shout out to you, Victor. But anyways, moving on. Super Straight Guy says we have to watch out for the shutdown. Hopefully the Clarity Act gets passed. That's also out in the air. Not sure when that'll get passed. I think that's going to probably fall by the wayside. What does Kalshi say? Says Eric, BlackRock sold a ton of Bitcoin. All right. Yeah, BlackRock did sell, but there's also some breaking news, which we're going to cover here in just a second. Strategy, speaking of Bitcoin, Strategy buys another $264 million of Bitcoin in the past week. They sold 1.57 million shares of common stock. So they hit the ATM. Michael Saylor hit the ATM and then, used that money to basically buy Bitcoin. So this is bringing them up to quite a bit, because I think last week they made like a $2 billion purchase of Bitcoin. Absolutely crazy how much money just Strategy is piling into this. Whether you're short or long on Strategy, a bear or bull, this is what they're doing. You cannot take Saylor off his game. He is going to continue to acquire Bitcoin. He's going to continue buying it. The whole, one of the big bear cases against Strategy was that they don't make enough money, the software company, or even the other, well, mostly the software company, because that's where probably the dividend would come from, right? That they don't have enough money, right? And if he keeps liquidating, keeps ATMing to use the common stock to pay off that dividend, eventually this is all going to just implode on itself, right? This starting to look like a Ponzi scheme. So what Saylor did was he basically used the ATM common stock MSTR shares and just fueled, I think, a 1.6 billion or it's like 1.6 billion or so cash reserve that will be able to pay the dividend, for all of his preferreds for a very, very long time. I forget how long the runway is, but it's a pretty long time without selling any Bitcoin, right? So that pretty much destroyed the biggest bear case against MicroStrategy or Strategy. And this gives them a lot of runway, right? If there was to be a crypto winner, a Bitcoin winner, whatever, a crypto bear market, you pick your poison. That strategy would be able to weather that storm and still be able to make good on their dividend, and they would still be able to hold all their Bitcoin without selling a single one. So, love them or hate them, that is what it is, for strategy. But we also have news from BlackRock. Okay. This is coming from Alice Mia. BlackRock is about to turn Bitcoin an income asset. BlackRock just filed for a Bitcoin income ETF. Now, this was talked about last year, and a lot of people were very excited about this, right? So it looks like it's starting to make its way again, right? They plan to sell covered calls on their own Bitcoin ETF to generate yield while holding Bitcoin exposure. Wall Street isn't asking if crypto is real anymore. I heard a very good, podcast, with British Hodl. He was doing it on oh man, I always forget the channels because I don't follow the channels, but I follow British Hodl. British Hodl is you can look him up on YouTube, but he's one message, and that message is get to 1 Bitcoin, right? But he was talking about how BlackRock, you have like people like BlackRock, right? Just the biggest asset manager in the world, largest asset manager in the world. Okay, they're taking Bitcoin seriously. And he has always said that when you had an institution like BlackRock come into the game, that Bitcoin, it was a done deal, right? Because everything after that is because of BlackRock. So now you have BlackRock coming out with a premium income product that's going to do stuff with, their IBIT. And IBIT is the most successful, their most successful ETF, okay? I don't know how much AUM it has. It's a very low expense ratio, and it's just spot price Bitcoin, right? But this allows companies, or this allows investors to skirt kind of around regulations, because at first they can't invest in crypto, like 401ks and things like that, or even private wealth management firms. They won't allow, or they won't suggest people buy actual Bitcoin. But what they will suggest is buy an ETF, right? An ETF that holds Bitcoin. And that's why IBIT was that workaround. And as more and more of these ETFs come out that have to do with Bitcoin, it's just going to be more passive flows for BlackRock. And BlackRock's not the only one. You have Fidelity that also has their own Bitcoin spot price ETF. All right. And Morgan Stanley was talking about coming out with one. I believe it was for the European market. I'm not sure if it's for the United States. But again, you have these big freaking institutions taking crypto seriously, taking Bitcoin seriously. So again, what do they know that we don't? Why are they taking it seriously now? It's not just for the scammers. It's no longer for people trying to do very questionable things, or try to launder money. It's no longer that. It's a little bit of that, but it's also no longer that, because now you have these big institutions stepping in. They're going to be recommending it to their customer base, that they have some type of allocation, right? Whether it's 2%, 5%, whatever of their portfolio. Imagine how much inflow that would be for just Bitcoin itself. So it is interesting what iShares, or excuse me, what BlackRock is doing, especially with this Bitcoin premium income ETF. And people in the high yield space, there's always that worry. What if these ETFs go to zero? What if the fund managers disappear? What if the SEC comes into the game and says, all these fund managers, shilling and selling all these high yield, underperforming garbage products that just nav a road and lose people's principal? You guys have heard the story, right? Now you have BlackRock coming into the game with a premium Bitcoin ETF. So I think their biggest competitor, and it's sad to say that this would be their biggest competitor, but their biggest competitor will probably be like BTCI, from Neos. They also have some other cover call ETFs on Bitcoin. You have YBIT. You also have the one from Roundhill. You have yieldmax, Roundhill, and Neo. So it's going to be interesting when this eventually does drop and when it comes out. How it performs, because this is going to be done by BlackRock / iShares. So really interesting stuff. Guys, I gotta drink a cup of coffee, man. I have not shut up for probably the last 30 minutes. Okay. All right. Let's see. So real quick. It's crazy because I'm looking at StreamYard and I see the comments from YouTube, but I don't see any from X. So I'm not sure if anyone from X is watching, but I apologize if I can't see your comments. And the reason is because I'm still trying to figure out the StreamYard stuff. But you know, if you are commenting, I do appreciate it. And I ran a poll and I can't even see the poll. So anyways, let's move on. Some big news came out from NVIDIA. Okay, NVIDIA invested $2 billion in CoreWeave. CoreWeave was an IPO from last year. It's ran by Michael and Trader. If you guys don't know who CoreWeave is, they're basically a pure play data center, right? Pure play data center. And there's a lot of controversy around CoreWeave. You know, Michael and Trader and his management team were like dumping shares at one point. They used to be, I believe, a Ethereum or a Bitcoin mining company. So they already had all the GPUs, right? They already had all the NVIDIA GPUs. So then they just pivoted to a pure play data center. Okay, but NVIDIA was backing them. OpenAI was backing them, right? Microsoft, I believe, was also, you know, either early backer, or I think they have a partnership. I can't remember. It's been a while. But anyways, NVIDIA invests $2 billion in CoreWeave to help build over 5 gigawatt AI factories. 5 gigawatt AI factory. So Jensen's thing right now is AI factories. I understand the AI factory a little bit as a concept. I'm not, you know, in depth. I don't have the information to really like tell you guys what it is, you know, per se, because I still am trying to grasp what it means. I've watched, you know, some of Jensen Huang's keynote speeches, and he's just been talking about these AI factories. Like you're going to have a factory, like AI factories for each different industry, for each different sector. So that's kind of what he's betting big on. So NVIDIA has invested $2 billion into CoreWeave and expanded their collaboration to help CoreWeave accelerate the build out of over 5 gigawatts of AI factories by 2030. NVIDIA invested $2 billion in CoreWeave Class A common stock. All right. The companies intend to build AI factories developed and operated by CoreWeave using NVIDIA's accelerated computing program or platform technology to meet customer demand. The companies also aim to use NVIDIA's financial strength to accelerate CoreWeave's procurement of land, power, and shell to build AI factories. NVIDIA is one of the most important companies in the world, right? The current Trump administration, you know, brought NVIDIA on a world tour, basically selling chips to the Middle East for their data centers, selling chips to EU for their data centers. And, you know, Jensen Huang is basically, you know, as Dan Ives like to call him, you know, from Wedbush Securities, he is the father of AI, right? His GPUs are so important for the AI race, right, between the United States and China, because that's what it is right now. It is a race between these two superpowers. You can basically kind of, you know, if you wanted to parallel, this is basically the Cold War, right? But for, you know, for China and the United States and AI, right? So all the companies, all hands on deck, everyone is trying to build the best models. We had the DeepSeek scare last year. Where, you know, the market sold off, data centers are dead, there's no point, you know, we're spending too much, you know, NVIDIA, the hyperscalers, all these people, it's a done deal. China was able to do it for, you know, 1/3 of the cost of what, you know, all these US companies are you know, paying to develop these language learning models, etc. And then it turned out not to be the case, right? NVIDIA at one point, think about this, NVIDIA at one point was like $85 a share, right? During the sell-off. And the stock has more than doubled, right, since those days back in April, February. So NVIDIA is a very big player in the space. So I can see why, you know, CoreWeave wants to use them to basically fast track their data center build outs, right? Because that is still the big thing for this country, right? For the United States. You have the Stargate project from OpenAI, and this was kind of the Trump's, you know, initiative, or the Trump administration's kind of a way of, you know, having some way to influence AI data center build out. Okay, let's take a look here. In case you guys forgot about this, this is still a thing. Okay, announcing the Stargate project. All right, this is from OpenAI. It was a partnership between OpenAI. You had Oracle, MGX. I'm sure there's a ton of other. You have NVIDIA, Microsoft, ARM in here, right? And their whole thing was to build massive data centers, right? That was it, massive data centers. So a lot of money was being poured into this. And this was a project that the Trump administration was backing. So Anyways, moving on, the companies also plan to deploy multiple generations of NVIDIA infrastructure. So this is bullish NVIDIA, meaning that NVIDIA will always have a customer, right? NVIDIA is always going to have money to basically, or always going to have chip demand. So this is good. Earlier this month, Nebius, Supermicro, and CoreWeave said that they will start offering NVIDIA's new Vera Rubin, the NVLink 72 computing platform. So their Rubin is the newest chip that they're launching, and it's I don't know how many more times powerful than the Blackwell, but it basically leaves the Blackwell in the dust, right? And the Blackwell was all the rage for all of 2025, right? So again, is there another competitor? Some people think Google's TPUs are the competitor. There's also Cerebras, I think. Cerebras is not a public company, but they're NVIDIA's rival. You know, they were talking about doing an IPO, then they stopped the IPO. Who knows what if NVIDIA is going to get dethroned, right? That's the big question. Is as more and more players start to come into the space, is NVIDIA going to get dethroned, right? Are they going to, you know, lose a lot of their market share? They lost a lot of market share in China. You had a ton of news, you know, where the Chinese government's like, oh, don't buy NVIDIA chips. There's backdoors in them, software problems, you know, we don't trust them, right? But companies still want NVIDIA chips, and they still want the H200, even though it's a watered down, you know, NVIDIA chip. They still want it. It's still better than anything that the Chinese market currently has. Okay, cool. So we have from the Kobesi letter. All right, this is silver. Okay, now we're going to move into our metals segment. Okay, so this is silver. In one of its largest intraday reversals in history, silver has completely erased its 14% gain and turned red on the day. Silver just erased $900 billion of market cap within 90 minutes. This was absolutely crazy to see, right? This is absolutely crazy. You see the run up, right? This was on the whole thing of the shutdown. The government shutdown is potentially going to happen, and then you also had basically the run on banks in China, and then it looks like people just started taking profits. This is a 10% dip, right? A 10% correction, which is that good? Is that a good entry point? Is it going to continue dipping? Because if you look at silver, it's just had this really massive run up. I mean, it doesn't look like nothing is going to stop this thing, right? Nothing. It absolutely destroyed 2011, right? It's just, is silver going to have this really violent drawdown or correction period? Left to be seen, because right now the macro just supports that people go into silver. And not only because of the store of value, that type of thing, but there's a lot of industrial use with silver. We've talked about it plenty of times on this channel, but silver has a lot of industrial use, like in an EV battery, an electronic vehicle battery. You have a ton of silver in that battery. And now they're coming out with solid state batteries, right, which should be charged within 9-10 minutes, a fully charged vehicle. Those solid state batteries are going to consume a ton of silver. So silver demand is skyrocketing. There's not enough silver, but for some reason people are still selling silver, right? Like, think about this. There's not enough silver around, but people are still buying paper silver. People are still trading silver as if it's there, right? So a little bit of market manipulation, right? It's just, it's a scarce asset. Okay, so I just wanted to cover this real quick because this was really interesting to see or wake up to. And then check, and I was like, holy crap, I can't believe that happened. This was the biggest piece of news right here. This was the biggest piece of news. We saw USAR, that is the ticker, USA Rare Earths shares rally as Commerce Department takes equity stake. I saw USAR jump like, I think 34%. It was wild, absolutely wild. And I've never seen something like that for like, at least, like a mining company in like a single day, I guess. I've never seen it personally. Like I actually had a couple of shares of USAR. I ended up selling out of them at the top, take a little bit of profit. I know, you should be long in these things. You shouldn't, just be a weekend warrior, or a tourist, as some would say. But I might re-enter, me personally, I might re-enter. But that was just crazy, that run up. And now it's obviously dropping down to earth. All right, the Commerce Department will provide a USAR with a $1.3 billion loan and $277 million in federal funding. Now, again, this is the administration just exactly telling you what to buy, right? They're picking the winners and losers in the market. They're they're taking stakes in these companies like Intel. We saw with Intel. Intel is basically back from the dead. I mean, we could see it. We don't have to search very far, right? INTC. We could look at Intel, and Intel is back from the dead. They were pretty much a dead company. And then the Trump administration decided to take this, stake in them, right? And the stock just is starting to climb back up. All right. It's crazy that type of influence is there, right? Interesting case for Intel. While they might not have a data center or AI, they might not be involved with that. Everyday people, everyday consumers are still going to need laptops, computers, desktops, and that sort of stuff. And that's where Intel, can at least shine a little bit because they have the chips for that. And there's still servers. There's still a ton of servers that use Intel chips. Okay. So, at least from a commercial or from a consumer standpoint, Intel is not really going to go anywhere. I thought it was pretty much a done deal for Intel, that they were just going to, probably have the stock completely stay depressed for, easily a couple of years. But, here comes Trump and we'll take a stake, right? And that sent the stock climbing higher. So where are we? Yeah, so here. So again, big deal. So shout out to anyone who's in USAR, who was able to pick up a couple shares before it had this big parabolic move. I think it warrants, some research, especially if you're bullish in the commodity space and if you want some exposure to, actual miners, to actual single companies. But this was a deal. I'm not going to go over the whole thing. You guys can read kind of the highlights. But USA Rare Earth or USAR is just getting a $1.5 billion from private investors, and they're still getting that big bump from the U.S. government. Okay, CEO Barbara Humpton said the deal with the U.S. government will turn USAR into an industry leader. Its stock soared 29% at its high on Monday before closing with a gain of 8%. Okay, this is why they're important. Okay, the capital infusion from the Trump administration will help USAR advance its plan to build a magnet manufacturing plant in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and a mine at a rare earth deposit in Sierra Blanca, Texas called Round Top. Now, who remembers last year, 2025, when the Trump administration kept talking about we need these magnets, right, from China. We need these magnets from China. We need these magnets from China. I didn't know magnets were so damn important, but apparently, yes, they are very important. They have a lot of industrial use, a lot of national defense use. They metals are in rockets, missiles, bullets, right? Their national security is a big deal, obviously. So a lot of this magnet stuff goes into these items. And not only that, but also in terms of national security, you have aerospace, right? The aerospace defense sector. You have, and of course, weapons, right? So yes, magnets is very important. And I did not know that. So I'm sharing that with you guys. USAR is on track to commission its magnet manufacturing plant in the first quarter of 2026. Steele said it aims to start commercial mining operations at Round Top in late 2028. All right. So it's still very early stage. Again, I don't know a whole lot or how to do DD on these companies or these mining companies. I know you have to be really careful. One, you have to bet on the management team, right? Does the management team actually have a track record of success? Where did they come from? Did they come from other successful mining companies, et cetera? Not only that, you have to think of, are they getting the permits? Do they have the equipment? Do they have the funding, right? There's a whole lot that goes into this, a mining operation, right? It's not just, Avatar. It's not you just drop a base on a home world and then start mining the hell out of it. No, when you're doing it, not only in the United States, but you have Australia, you also have Africa, you have Central South America, you have Alaska, right? You have other places where mining operations are happening. It's not just the United States. So it's a fascinating, the commodity space, the mining sector is a very, very fascinating space. The planned investments in USA Rare Earths comes after the Defense Department struck a landmark deal last summer with rare earth miner MP Materials. If you guys remember that, MP Materials just skyrocketed. I haven't checked the stock in a minute. We'll check it a little later. That included equity stake, price floor, and off-take agreement. The Trump administration also took stake in Lithium America and Trilogy Metals last year. So let's just take a quick look at MP Materials. I just want to see if they dropped or not. So this is after the announcement. Let's see what they got. I mean, they're still doing pretty good. I think this was probably the announcement around here, or maybe this was it. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, the stock has not, hasn't been doing bad at all. So that is that. That is that about USAR. Again, commodity space, if you guys are interested. Check in the chat. Let's see. We got, let's see. Oh, okay. I got to scroll back up. Sorry, guys. I've been on a rant. All right. I've been talking a lot and I have not shut up. So I really want to get to the comments here. Let's see. Because you guys are the ones that make it a whole lot of fun. Like, honestly, I like cutting it up with you guys. Let's see. We have Dividend Sith. Hey, welcome back. As always, I hold blocks in cepi and I actually buy BOK, the stock and iShares over Vanguard. Oh, so you actually hold BlackRock's. Wow, that's cool. I used to own Blackstone BX. I never held BLK. I was like, this is way long ago. I did hold BXMT. It's a mortgage REIT. And it pays out like a 14% dividend yield. But yeah, like I used to invest in that MREIT. We have retire on dividends. Hey, welcome back, man. Monday night Eugen. Yeah, that's what this show should be called. After dark, right? Jerry Bancroft says, I saw your comment earlier. On my last stream. So thank you for the comment. You missed out Amplify's phenomenal Bitcoin income product, Biddy and Baggy. Amplify has the same structure for Ethereum. And they also have income ETFs in Solana and XRP. Well, there you guys go. What am I doing? Look at me. Like, I forgot to freaking click the button, guys. I am over here reading your comments like a Neanderthal when I could just share your comments. I forget that I'm on StreamYard. I forget. Like I usually use OBS, So here we go. So I appreciate that, Jerry. We have retire on dividends. We also had Dividend Sith. We also had DeepSeek was the data by NVIDIA. Absolutely. 100%. Let's see. So from Victor Sank, last Cold War brought human beings to the moon and the cost was so big that we haven't done it for the last 50 years. I wonder where AI Cold War will bring us. Well, we're moving into physical AI, right? We're moving into, we have the software layer, we have the chat bots, and the chat bots are getting better, if you can even call them that now, right? There's agentic AI where they can actually perform tasks for you. There was a startup company I looked at where they use AI integrate it with their software, and the software, what it does is it actually clicks buttons on a website for you, right? Because ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, most of them can't do that. But this integration allows the AI to actually click a button, which is crazy when you think about it, because there's, imagine like a website where you want to like browse through a FAQ, like a frequently asked question, right? And there's all these like blocks, but you have to click the blocks. This thing could just click those blocks and it'll extract the information for you. Like, it is a pretty big deal. And now we're moving into, physical AI. So you had agentic AI, now you're having the physical AI world. You're going to have the Tesla bots, right? You're going to have, the robots that are, probably could do other tasks, especially like in a warehouse, like logistics. And physical AI, you also have probably like, autonomous driving cars, right? You have probably trucks in the future, who knows? So autonomous vehicles, autonomous robots, that is probably going to be the next layer up. Elon Musk was talking about in one of his keynotes. I forget which one last year. I mean, he's done so many, but he was basically saying like he could imagine a world where everybody has like their own like C3PO, right? From Star Wars, shout out to you, Dividend Sith, but everyone has their own C3PO, right? Or the little R2D2, right? It's just following them around, their own little drone, right? And you can talk with it, you can ask it questions, you can ask it to do things. Imagine a robot, cooking you a meal or cleaning your house, right? Like that is coming, and it's coming quick. Let's see. We have Latro. Hey, I'm glad you're here, man. I hope you're still here. Appreciate you joining the stream. We had MP Material Skyrocket, and we also have Latro says, I'm running 250% annual 2-year running. Jeez Louise, God, man, I'm trying to get on your game. I defected from yield to option gains on PMs. Nice. Are you buying any robots? If you would buy one, which one and why? I would buy one to help me do the mechanic stuff and crack 9 gag jokes. Honestly, if I had an AI, like a physical AI robot, it would be severely underused. Like, I don't even know what I would have it do. I probably have it just clean my house, right? Just clean this place, because when I get bored, I start cleaning, and that can be almost a 2 to 3 hour thing in itself. And I could just have the robot do it for me. Like dishes, I hate having dirty dishes. Can have the robot clean dirty dishes. All right, guys, let's move on from the chats. I appreciate you guys, as always, dropping those chats. Let's listen in on a quick CNBC video. Actually, you know what? We are running a little hot on time. We're at 8:50, and I like to keep these streams about an hour long. If you want to stay past the hour, maybe I'll open it up to some guests if anyone wants to come on. But I like to keep them about an hour long because I want to be respectful of your guys' time. So we're going to skip this video. All right. But basically, we're in a commodity bull market that will spread out, says investor Peter Brookvar. So you guys can check this out on CNBC if you want to hear his insights. All right. So we had Sam Badawi. All right. I'm sure I butchered his name, but this is someone I follow on X. I really do like whenever he and I don't even, I am following him. Oh, okay. So this is subscription. Okay. I am following him. Anyways, he published this chart, which I thought was really, really cool. Again, going back to the whole rare earth, critical minerals, story, commodities, bull run, super cycle, all that other stuff. Here is a list of companies and what they do. You have antimony. All right. Graphite. You have uranium. All right. So if we're hearing all this talk about nuclear power plants, could some of these companies be, worthwhile, right? Lithium is used in, battery technology. So lithium could be a big deal. I'm sure it already is. Copper is something we're going to talk about here in just a moment. And then you have rare earth elements, right? So if you guys want a list, you guys can screenshot this right now and go do your research, right? But yes, I think, I've seen some of these tickers before. Some of them I actually want to open positions on. I'm just probably waiting, being a little more careful, because I did say at the beginning of the year that I was not just going to be buying in and out of a bunch of stuff, because usually those trades against me. I'm trying to be more of a long-term investor, trying to limit the swing trading as much as possible. But when you see that momentum, you see those hockey sticks, right? Those green hockey stick candles. I mean, it gets a little tempting, right? It gets a little tempting. But anyways, again, you guys can screenshot this and start doing your own due diligence on this stuff. There's just so many. We have in our community, in the Discord community, if you guys are interested, I'm not plugging it, but I'm saying that the person I listen to when it comes to all of this stuff is in that community, has his own little, channel, and he posts a bunch of stuff. I can't even keep up with it. I'm barely through some of the interviews for some of these subject matter experts that he posts, but he posts a ton of stuff. All right. He came onto the stream yesterday as Tungsten Tiger. So yeah, definitely, if you're interested in metals, something to consider, definitely take a screenshot of this and you guys can do your own research. All right. This is the biggest one right here. We're hitting what is the next shortage, and it's copper. Copper is the next shortage. Okay. This is from the Kobesi letter. Another, again, you guys can subscribe to them. I follow them. Very good information on X. A copper shortage is coming next. The world economy is projected to face a copper deficit of 10 million tons by 2040, equivalent to 33% of current global demand. Okay. This comes as global copper demand is estimated to surge to 42 million tons by 2040 from 28 million tons in 2025. Asia alone is expected to reflect 60% of total demand growth over this time, driven by EV adoption and grid upgrades. At the same time, AI data center copper demand is set to surge 127% to 2.5 million tons by 2040. Meanwhile, supply is expected to peak at 34 million tons in 2030 before declining to 32 million tons by 2040. So this is absolutely crazy. This is huge. Like we're talking about the commodities super cycle, the commodities bull market, right? Whatever you want to call it, right? Usually most eyes are focused on gold and silver, but there is another metal out there, and that metal is copper, right? Copper is extremely important. And again, I'm just sharing what I've learned so far with copper. All right. I'm not trying to convince you or persuade you to invest in it. Do your own research, of course, but let's take a few macro events, right? Let's take a few macro events. We have the AI data center play, which is covered here, right? You're going to need a lot of copper, a lot of wiring, a lot of power, right? On top of that, what is happening in, in the other side of the world, Russia, Ukraine, right? A lot of missiles being dropped, right? A lot of bullets being fired. You think they're recycling that copper? That copper gets used up, gets blown up, tons of shrapnel all over the place. There's no way to recover that copper unless you're out there, in a bulletproof vest picking up the copper shells, right? to resell it. But that is basically, you might as well write that copper off, right? So you have that also, right? And you have manufacturing for copper. Let me take that back. You have mining for copper. There's just not enough mines open or that have opened to meet that demand, to meet the copper demand. So now there's this, narrative out there as again, observation, where copper is going to be in so much demand because it's becoming a limited resource. And even the scrap copper that they, pick out from, destroying buildings or, tearing down real estate or, tearing the copper out of piping, that is not enough. Like scrap copper is not enough to meet that demand. So, you start looking at it from a national security perspective. You start looking at it from a energy perspective. You start looking at it from a, data center CapEx perspective. So copper could potentially be just as important as silver in this, this year as we see it play out. So right now it's extremely undervalued, very undervalued. And I'm saying that from a position of like, I actually have a copper ETF, copper miners ETF, and it has not really done well compared to some of these other like GDX or SIL. GDX is a gold miners ETF. SIL is a silver miners ETF. So it has not really done all that well. So something to keep in mind, but let's listen in. If you don't know who Chamath is, some people love him, some people hate him because he was the whole kind of brainchild behind the SPACs back in 2022, I think, or 2021. And SPACs basically, by and large, most of them just went to zero, right? A lot of people invested in the SPACs, and these SPACs just basically blew up. So Chamath, love him or hate him, smart guy, but I still like to listen to him. I like to watch this podcast. This is the All In podcast. Great group of guys. You have David Sachs, who's the Trump administration's crypto czar. He's usually on the panel. So definitely worth listening to. So let's listen in.
I will pick copper.
Okay. Copper.
We are still completely underestimating how short we are in terms of the global demand supply dynamics of a handful of critical elements that we need. Again, in the Trump doctrine view of the world, that is no longer as multilateral as it was, and we need to have unilateral national security. And if you look through that lens, the asset that is set up to go absolutely parabolic is copper. And the reason is that it is, at least as it stands today, the most useful, cheap, amenable, conductive material that we have. That material manifests in everything from our data centers to our chips to our weapon systems. It's just everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. And right now, Jason, we are on a path by 2040 where we will be short about 70% of the global supply at current course and speed. And so I will pick copper.
Insane, guys. Absolutely insane. Like you see where everyone's like now talking about metals, everyone's talking about commodities, everyone's hopping on this train. We're right now either very early, there's a pretty big narrative out there from a lot of these subject matter experts that are in the space, Rick Rule being one of them, one of the people I listen to. He believes that we're very early right now. Like this is early. Even though there's these crazy run-ups, this is still early. Now, will 2026 be the same as 2025? His viewpoint is no, but it's still not going to be a bad year. So again, if you're long on these metals, if you're interested in getting into these metals, you can absolutely check them out and kind of add them to your portfolio if you wish. Again, I have a ton of metal ETFs in my own portfolio. I recently started I think like early January, if I'm not mistaken, I started getting exposure to them because as I like started learning, you know, and really diving into this space, it's, man, there's just so much opportunity. Now, I'm personally probably going to stay away from the miners. I'm just, again, it's not my wheelhouse, not something, you know, that's in my, you know, I guess like roundhouse. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. But what is it? Not sphere of influence. It's I'm drawing a blank. It's Warren Buffett always talks about it. Core competency. It's not a core competency of mine doing due diligence on these mining companies. So I'll just buy the basket, I'll buy the sector and just be happy with, you know, the average return, which honestly, I mean, a uranium ETF that has a bunch of uranium miners, it was doing very well up until today, right? It was doing really, really well. Okay. So I think that's going to do it. Yeah, that pretty much does it for this stream, guys. There was a lot we went over. Ton of stuff. So right now is the top of the hour. I appreciate you guys. What I'm going to do, all right, what I'm going to do this time, and we'll just see how it goes. I don't know if I'll do this every single time because I like to keep to a schedule. I will open this up to any guests that want to come online, that want to come and cut it up and maybe talk about what they're investing in or what their ideas are for copper or what their ideas are for the metals market, or talk about high yield ETFs. I don't care. Some of the best, or not the best, but some of the high yield ETFs that have been gaining a lot of love recently has all been from Kurv. You have KGLD. I know Bancroft earlier. He had mentioned Jerry Bancroft. Yes, I remember he had mentioned in another stream of mine. He had listed a few ETFs. So if you want to check out those ETFs, you absolutely should. I think it just broadens your horizons a bit. But you have the Kurv Gold Enhanced Income ETF. This one has been getting a lot of traction lately. So let me pull up this invite guest link. All right. So if anyone wants to come on, you don't have to. Don't be shy. If no one comes on, then I don't know if you guys want to chat it up for the next 15 minutes. All right. So let's go. So there is the link. So I just posted it. This is a lot of crazy stuff happening. Like I was looking at this this news, you know, going through my news cycle, and I was like, there really wasn't a whole lot. Like you know, it wasn't too crazy of a day. It's never a crazy day as long as, you know, Trump stays off the damn off Twitter or off his tweets, Truth Social, whatever you want to call it. As long as we can keep him off the damn cell phone, I think the days are pretty chill. I mean, again, we're not even past the first month and we've already had two massive events happen, right? We had the Venezuela thing happen, and then we had the Davos stuff start to kick off, which is absolutely crazy. Greenland, you know, taking over Greenland, having a framework for Greenland, et cetera, et cetera. So I won't bore you guys to death with that. All right, so we have Victor Sank in the backstage, so we're going to bring him on.
Hey, everybody.
What's going on? So let me see if I could get this right. Hold on. Let's see.
Oh, clap. That's nice.
Man, I'm trying to get used to this whole StreamYard stuff, man. So
Yeah,
I'm trying to make it more entertaining for the audience. So, hey, let's welcome you aboard one more time.
I was inspired yesterday. I did my home research about Canadian copper companies. And to be honest, like top 10 Canadian copper companies, this year they spiked like 350%.
Really?
Yeah. So
holy hell.
Yeah, I was like looking just into that metric alone. Some of them are brand new and they still spiked. Some of them are still from 2000s and they had their second life, basically came back. So they used to be big and they slowly were dying down, and now they're back, and they're back super strong. What worries me is they have very low net. They value like 30 million, 20 million, 14 million, like very small companies, almost like penny stock company size. But the growth in the copper field, what kind of inspires me. So I pulled like top 20 Canadian copper companies. I'm trying to look through them. I already bought first one, just look most promising, and I hope to pick up maybe 2 or 3 more and hold them on and see how copper goes. I was looking at the other materials. They were like up to overall trend of overall market size. But I know from my job that mining in Canada is growing. We keep selling more and more heavy duty stuff, huge machines that are designed to mine in big volume. So that is in a demand, and just that alone brings me to understanding that mining gonna be strong, bigger, and small companies that were like digging like 2 cents a day, they're not surviving. Everything goes to the big guys who mine super industrial, who mine like thousands of tons a day of gold or silver, and that's like raw material, not even included. It's just pure gold, basically. So
when you're doing your research on these companies, can you walk us through kind of like how you do due diligence, or how you review because there's like let's say 20 different companies and you start your research. Like, what are you looking for?
As a local guide to BC, British Columbia, Canada, I look more into ones that are located here because I know the places where they are. So I can open the map, and as other Victor mentioned, and I have great thanks to him for all his tips, like you can just open the map and see what they actually own, what kind of land they own, how many acreages, what rights do they have? Will there going to be some fights for those rights? What their profit or what their overall value is. Like I know value of my company. I know I have like 50 people working. Understand how much my company can invest to grow. So if I look at the same size company, I have like brief understanding. Okay, this company may not be able to grow as fast as this copper field demands, because you need to buy a machine that costs like $5 million. And you need not a one machine, you need like 5 of them. So if your net worth is like 30 million, would you be able to buy 5 of those machines? Most likely not. Maybe you're gonna buy one used one and start slowly growing. So really depends. You always can open Google Maps and see what their fleet is. You can see what machines they have. Just based from my understanding, is they have like a couple huge rock trucks, they have big grinder, they have huge excavators that can do the job. And I understand they have like, you find them on Indeed, you see how many open jobs they have. Are they looking for new mechanics to fix their stuff? Are they remote located? Do they bring other people to their job site? Do they have their own like living space where workers live through the shifts? Do they offer a shifts job? Or they want to operate 24/7? Or they super close to some big city and they're like a little bit lazy? Okay, let's work 8 hours a day and call it as it is. So that's my beginner understanding from my personal experience being in a heavy duty mechanical field. So that's why I'm more interested in the copper. I'm like a little bit exposed to it. As you exposed to like technology, I always interested in what you say about AI, because you lived through it, you know all the stuff about chips and how all that business works from inside. And like you've been at a Gary podcast, he's like in production, so he knows a lot what companies do for production, what that business is about. So when he talks about that stuff, I always have my ears popped up because I want to hear every word what you guys have from your personal experience. And that would be my due diligence.
That is really cool. So just to summarize for the audience, your due diligence involved, and that is crazy that you do that type of deep due diligence to check the job postings for a mining company. I've never heard of something like that. That is really, really cool. But yeah, so you're checking, you like using Google Maps, using like probably the aerial view to check the mine, because these companies, they'll list their mines or where they're operating, and you can kind of see that, or you can see where they're located. and if they even have the equipment, or if it's just some, backyard, shed that they're operating out of.
Exactly.
I think, I don't know if they changed it, but like Oklo, OKLO is the ticker, Oklo Nuclear. They like their HQ is like in this really weird, like rundown, like looking building, and people are piling in money into this company, right? And I don't know if they changed it. I haven't looked at it in a long time, but I just thought that was funny. But so you're doing due diligence on the job postings. You're looking at them from Google Maps, or Google Earth to see if what the mine looks like, or wherever they're located, if they even have the equipment. That is really cool. Now, do you do anything with the management team? Like, are you looking at who's running the mine and kind of their experience?
To be honest, I don't think I can do any good investigation just by asking a couple questions. I know my own company not gonna tell me financial part of our business. I don't expect other companies that advertises itself gonna tell me anything bad about themselves. I'm pretty sure all of them will say like, yeah, we're growing. I just been working for different companies. I know how everybody advertise themselves. Everybody say we're growing, we're changing, we're developing. And then you work there for 2 years and you see like not a single stone was moved around. People like stability. They want to live simple life. If it makes money, let's make money without reinvesting. Unfortunately, many businesses are run like that. So I personally don't think I can have good value from talking to the management. If I personally would have spare time, wouldn't be like active working like 9 hours a day. I just hop on my bike and just drive to that mine and just walk around as an investor, actual one. Hey guys, show me what you have. Maybe I have $1 million to invest into you guys.
And then you open a position for $100.
Exactly. And now I'm the owner. I'm the owner, guys. Yeah.
No, but what I was talking about is like looking at who the management team is. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to talk to them or anything, but just at least understanding, like, it's not some guy who went, the CEO is not some guy who went from, I'm going to pick on my own field, like went from IT to now he's just a copper miner, right? Like, or he went from AI, AI, I don't know, scientist, and now he's a copper miner, right? Like that's what I mean. Just at least looking at their bio and seeing if they've been involved in any other projects. Like, have you ever done due diligence that way?
I just know, once again, from my personal experience, many companies that are in Canada, they're like family owned. So they're like not very into corporate state. They're still big enough to make big money, but they basically have one owner who built it like 30 years ago. And he hired some guy whom he trusts, and that guy is CEO. So that guy might be just cutting his grass at some point of time, but he knew him as a nice kid. He offered him a job. That guy was a beginner. And then they were just being friends. So like, hey, by the way, do you want to run the company? And guy was interested, and he had some skills in management or financial, whatever it takes to be a successful CEO. Sometimes it works just like that. To more into personal development between a couple of people, there are like social skills other than their professional skills. And I know many people who are professionals and they don't have good relationship with other people because everybody has their own vision on stuff. Like somebody like rapid growth, constant growth, somebody wants to make everything super efficient. Other people want to make everything super local and don't like going abroad. Other people want to bring everything from everywhere with the cheapest price. Someone wants to have like huge warehouse ready to go. Other people want like, okay, let's find a customer and then we're gonna buy something for him and sell it. So very different approach from like sales team perspective, from higher management perspective. And then you go to the ground, you talk to a technician like they do in a fun video, like owner says we can do it in 2 days, and mechanic says you can guys go and F yourselves. It's not going to be done in a month at least. So don't give those promises. And
Yeah.
that's just nature of every business. I just never seen anyone talking shit about their company, saying like, we're growing, but slowly. So maybe invest, but not too much.
Yeah.
Like everybody
We're
wanted
growing.
this. Yeah, slowly but steady. So
Yeah.
I don't have that maybe personal skill to talk to a person to see where they graduated and say like, okay, he graduated this place, his company gonna survive any down market and they're gonna prosper no matter what. I don't have it.
Well, man, I appreciate you, Victor, for coming on. I think you dropped a lot of gems, especially for the audience who's listening, like how to, at least how you do due diligence. Cause I would have never have thought to look at job openings for these mining companies to see if they're, what they're hiring for, cause that'll give you an indication or at least an idea of some of the big machinery that they do have or that they're preparing for. So, I mean, that was a really good idea. Like I never heard something like that. It kind of reminds me of like, and this is more of a meme now. But there's the pizza, they call it Pizza Gate. So whenever there's a like pizza stores like Domino's or Pizza Hut outside of the Pentagon. Yeah, outside of the Pentagon. And whenever the orders start spiking like crazy, then something is about to happen in the world because everyone's working overnight. So like I thought that was hilarious when the first time I heard it, because it's true. I mean, when you're running, like a big operation, you can't be leaving the desk. You need to get that pizza.
Yeah.
But anyways, man, it is about 9:16. I have to get going. I have to get my butt moving. All right. I'm trying to keep this year going. I'm trying to get to the gym and, at least try to stay a little healthy, maybe not lifting super heavy weights because I'm not trying to break or destroy my freaking body because it's already broken. But anyways, I do appreciate you joining. All right. I appreciate the audience for listening in. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening wherever you are in the world. I hope you guys had fun. Hope you guys got some type of value from this stream. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next stream. You guys have a great night and take care. And thanks again, Victor, for joining.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.